Hey guys, this is Rudy, and I'm going to make this as straightforward and as just straight to the point as possible. As I engage with non-believers and atheists on YouTube, there are some points that come up over and over again, and I thought it would be good to make a video specifically on this topic. And you know, that way I can just refer to the video in the future as when I have future discussions. But the first thing is when I get into a discussion with a non-believer or an atheist, they'll constantly bring up the evil that is done in the name of religion. You know, the past crusades or murders that's done in the name of religion, or the Catholic pedophiles. And I would offer that, you know, yes, I acknowledge that evil has been done by mankind in the name of religion, absolutely. But evil has also been done in the absence of religion, specifically Joseph Stalin and Pol Pot. And that's a completely different question as to when considering the existence of God. So it's very easy to fall into that trap that you've seen a bunch of religious hypocrites and therefore there must be no God. But please don't fall into that trap. They're two completely different questions. And so just please separate the two questions in your mind. I know that evil has been done in the name of religion. It's almost an obvious fact. But that is not the same question as whether there is a God or not. And I would also ask you to be very careful about wishing for the elimination of all religion on the planet. Religion, specifically the Bible and the teachings of Jesus Christ and the life of Jesus Christ, has set the baseline for how to live a moral and ethical life on this planet. Now you may say, well, we should, that's just a long time ago, nobody believes that crap anymore, and you know, let's throw all that old stuff out and let's just go with, you know, pick the best of what has religion has to offer. Let's pick the best of current moral values, and let's just make a new belief structure based on our modern times. Okay, I would offer you that is absolutely an impossible thing to do. It is absolutely going to be the destruction of mankind if you start down that path. The reason is, who is going to decide what is best, right? Who exactly among us in this earth today is going to decide what is best? You're going to have a vote? Is it going to be majority rule? Because that will absolutely be crazy too. See, Jesus Christ, I believe, is the Son of God who came down here and set a baseline for a moral and ethical life for us to follow. So even if you're not a Christian, you better be very careful about wishing that his teachings are eliminated from the face of the planet, because they will not be easily replaced by anyone. And it's going to be the destruction of mankind if you eliminate religion from the face of the planet. And I know in our secular society, it's not a cool thing to mention God. It's not a cool thing to mention Jesus Christ. And you know, you're kind of considered a Looney Tune person. If you do, that's fine. I don't mind being put in that category whatsoever. And I know there's many of my fellow Christians that have no problem with, you know, you labeling us whatever you want to label us. But the bottom line is, you need to think very carefully about eliminating the teachings of Jesus Christ and the baseline he set for goodness in this earth, because you have to ask yourself, what are you going to replace it with? And you may have your own individual ideas, but that's not how things work in practicality. And so, you know, when somebody murders somebody or when somebody commits an evil action, you have to ask yourself, how do you know if that's good or evil? Well, the Bible is what set the best baseline to tell us what good and evil is. If you don't have a baseline to compare what good and evil is, you're in very bad shape, and we're going to have to rely upon our inner moral compass. And for a lot of those non-believers in the secular society, I would offer that, you know, relying on your inner moral compass can be very dangerous when we look at the shape of the world today. And I do believe that we all have an inner moral compass, and it was instilled in us by our Creator. But we also have the baseline that Jesus Christ laid down when he came on this earth, and his life was recorded in the Bible. And I believe that we better be very careful when we can, you know, think about when you wish for that to be thrown out of society. I think you're looking at the destruction of society. Anyway, I wanted to offer that because, you know, the question about whether there is a God or not, or whether you know, all the religious hypocrisy that you always refer to, they're two completely different questions. And another question that constantly comes up, and I'll share this personal story. When I am big into Ayn Rand. I love her books. I've read every one of them, and I've read everything that she's ever written, and I just devour it because I think that she had a lot of great ideas. So I thought, you know, I'm the last one to join any clubs. I'm just not a club joining person, right? but they had an Ayn Rand meetup group. So I went to the group, and they were all talking about Sky Daddy this and Sky Daddy that, and they were kind of making fun of religious people. And I realized right then I wasn't going to be able to fit in. So I had a discussion with the leader of the group, and he was trying to convince me that my belief in God was, it was, what's the word? There's a word, impractical. There's another word I can't think of, but my belief in God was impractical, and he was trying to convince me that, of this. And he said, well, who created God? Okay, and then I couldn't answer the question. I just said God has always existed. And he said that was such a crazy answer, and that how come I couldn't see the obviousness of how crazy that answer is. God has always existed. What do you mean God has always existed? And it took me a long time to think through that argument, but I wanted to offer this, and this is my response to that question. Okay, imagine a universe where nothing exists. And when I say nothing exists, I mean nothing. I mean absolutely nothing. No time, no space, no particles of atoms, absolutely nothing. I mean, it's easy to imagine that, right? Just imagine in your mind nothing, a universe of nothingness. Okay, I know I've stressed that a lot, but it's important that you get to that concept. Okay, now if you are ever in that state, of nothingness, you can never get out of the state of nothingness. You will always be in the state of nothingness. So therefore, the universe has had to always have had something. You see what I mean? There has always had to have existed something, because if it was ever nothing, we would have always stayed in nothingness. You can't get out of the state of nothingness. So therefore, something must have always existed. If that makes any sense. Hopefully that makes sense, and I'm driving that point home. So, let's go back to the causal universe, okay? Now, if I was to look out the window, okay, I got a window right here. If I was to look out that window, and if I was to see a man floating in the sky, okay, I would think there's probably a cause for that. Either there's a crane and he's he's floating from wires, or maybe he has jet-propelled boots that are I don't see his boots, but I just see him floating in the sky. Maybe he's standing on top of a magnet and he's got, metal boots on. There's lots of different reasons, but I am going to believe there is a cause for it, right? There has to be a cause. If I believe there's no cause, then I will have a belief, an impractical belief. There has to be a cause for what I see. Okay? Now, I've already just covered the fact that the universe exists. Now, there has to be a cause for the universe, and it never could have been a situation where nothing existed. The universe has had to always exist. So what was the cause for this universe? It is God. He has always existed. You see what I mean? It's not impractical to believe that God has always existed. Now, the word always is very key here. We have to understand what the word always means. It means that there is no beginning and there is no end. We have a concept of time because we're born as living creatures that have a lifespan. We have a lifespan from our birth and to our death, and we're all going to die, and we're all going to die one day. Okay, so we have a beginning and an end, but God does not have a beginning and an end. God has always. He's always. He always exists. You see what I mean? He does not. He is outside the boundary of time. Now, another thing that another question that always comes up from atheists is, if God knows what we're going to do in the future, how can we have the free will to do it? I want to read this statement from C.S. Lewis because I think it covers this topic very well. This is from Mere Christianity. Another difficulty we get if we believe God to be in time is this. Everyone who believes in God at all believes that he knows what you and I are going to do tomorrow. But if he knows what I am going to do and so, how can I be free to do otherwise? Well, here once again, the difficulty comes from thinking God is progressing along the timeline like us. The only difference being, he can see ahead and we cannot. Well, if that were true, if God foresaw our acts, it would be very hard to understand how we could be free not to do them. But suppose God is outside and above the timeline. In that case, what we call tomorrow is visible to him in just the same way as what we call today. All the days for God are now for him. You see how important it is to understand that God is outside the timeline and that he has always existed? It's not a crazy, irrational thought. It is absolutely a very practical thought. And if you go back to my example of the universe of nothingness, And if that ever existed, we would never have what we have today, because you cannot get something out of nothing. So therefore, there has to be a cause for the universe. And it's impractical to believe that there is no cause. Okay? It's impractical. If you believe there is no cause, you are thinking irrationally. Just the same way that when I look out the window, if I saw a floating man, if I thought there was no cause to it, I would say that must be a miracle. But there has to be a cause to why he's floating, right? There has to be a cause as to why the universe exists. And that cause is God. And God has always existed. He is outside the timeline. But anyway, I just wanted to share that thought. It's a question that comes up a lot, and I wanted to get my thoughts out on video. Take care, and God bless every one of you. Hope you have a great week. Bye.